Boom. We are live. Start opening up the doors. My man, good to see you today, buddy. How's your day been? You're muted. I can't hear you. Still no volume over here, Mo. You talking to somebody else?
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha, man. Perfect.
Apologies, I hit a wrong button there. I hit the mute on my headset. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Where you tuning in from today?
Coming in from Vancouver, just west coast of Canada. That's where we're all located.
Awesome. Welcome, all y'all Canadians. We got yours representing today. Good to have you here. Look, somebody's already trying to speak. Marco, you got some questions? Throw them in the chat. We'd love to answer your questions today, y'all. And since it's 1 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and get this show on the road. First off, for everybody who's tuning in right now, please drop in the chat where you're from and what's your role in sales right now. We'd love to know that as well. And for all y'all listening on the replay, enjoy, and don't forget to check out the notes so you can connect with our man Mo Butler here. And by the way, Mo's got the best name, Mojan Butler. Like that's just beautiful. Love that. So for all y'all who don't know, I've been spending a lot of time looking into LinkedIn, social networking, automation, all these different types of things, and it is a time-consuming piece to really get to know people on social media. Right? So there's a lot of ways to kind of cut those corners, but there's a lot of corners you don't want to cut. And there's a lot of things you can really make a mistake on, really burn a relationship. Because I don't know how many of y'all out there have gotten a message in your inbox that's like 5 paragraphs long, and the person's pitching you, you've never talked to them, and you literally just connected with them, and automatically you got an email sent directly or a message sent directly to your inbox on LinkedIn. And you're like, I never even talked to this person. They sent me an 8-page document already, and you just burn them, right? You never look at them again, don't look at the company again, you're out. Well, this is some valuable stuff because you don't want to burn those relationships yet. You want to take advantage of some of the tools out there. So I checked out this company, CopilotAI, and was ended up linked up with my man Mo here, and really had some great insights on how to leverage some tools out there, but also what you need to know, even if you're going to be out there on your own, sending some messages, how you want to be. Look, I've heard 80% of B2B leads are picked up on LinkedIn. And it also has a 3 times higher conversion rate than any other social media. And I also know there's a lot of traffic, a metric shit ton, I think I've heard. So how do you get noticed on this stuff, right? And so that's what we want to talk about. First, how do you get noticed? How do you not make those mistakes too? So Mojan, welcome. Mo, I don't even know. When I say Mojan, it's just like Mojan. Welcome to the webinar, brother.
Appreciate it, Chris. Happy to be here. I got to say it. I mean, the name throws a lot of people off. A Persian first name and an English last name. Hippie mom. No reason other than that. But yeah, happy to be here. Looking to obviously share a bit of knowledge, and hopefully there's some value here for people.
Awesome. I love it. Well, why don't you go ahead and get this show on the road, my friend. Let's talk about some of these mistakes you do not want to make on LinkedIn.
I think we can all relate here, but I'll start with a quick intro. I'm Director of Sales and Partnerships for CopilotAI, and we really live and breathe in this space. So happy to share some observations and learnings that we've kind of, accumulated over the years. High level though, we, as Chris said, we really focus on helping people uncover, value and revenue from LinkedIn. I can get into a little bit of that, but I mean, the focus today is more on high level, what not to do, right? But our goal is to support people in, getting to a point where they can turn the medium of LinkedIn into, well, a reliable source for business, right? But high level, we're going to focus today on a few mistakes that you're probably making. We see the same recurring theme here, and that is most people, they don't look at LinkedIn from the perspective of the recipient. And we're going to get into kind of what you can do to quickly and easily avoid some of these pitfalls. And of course, then ways we can start to scale efforts. And we'll have some time then for Q&A, I believe, Chris. But all in all, I think there's some definite juice here. I would think it'll be worth the squeeze as well. High level, though, I always like to frame it with why LinkedIn. And I think this is pretty relevant. Most of us probably already on this page, but huge network, 700 million plus people worldwide, and a very large presence in North America, obviously. LinkedIn has been a really big plus in the time of COVID. It's been an opportunity for people to stay in touch with their network. It's gone from something that people checked on here and there to regularly, and a more acceptable place to do business. It's kind of the norm now, where before it was just how you stay in touch with ex-colleagues, kind of your rolling resume. Well, it's become more than that, right? Yes, it's a place where we can go to a decision maker directly, right? We have this luxury of not having gatekeepers, direct access, which is great. But I mean, the other thing is, mobile app has driven people to check on it more often than ever. Little annoying notification, you've got a message. Well, people like to mark that, check it. Great, all that's a pro. But in a time of COVID, coming out of COVID, there's also a lot of drawbacks. I mean, what is there? Noise. There's a ton of noise. You've probably seen it. Your feed has never been busier because everyone's validated this as a place you can do business. More is happening, right? The other pain point is for those who've actually actively used LinkedIn, you've probably experienced this, and that is there's a lot of inconsistency around alerting. So being consistent and making sure you set aside the time to check and communicate via your inbox, and we can get into some tips and tricks there. But again, data is not the easiest to surface. Standing out is just more difficult than ever, right? So we'll get into some of the ways that can be combated. But I mean, the three mistakes that are most, I think, prevalent, and we can probably relate here, but a lot of people are still making them. First off, as Chris mentioned, it's that it's that immediate response, right? A lot of people.
Real quick, Mo, do you have the slides on?
Yeah, are you not seeing them?
Are y'all seeing the slides right now? Someone give me something in the chat. Let me know if you're seeing the slides. Anyone. Bueller. Come on now. Are you seeing the slides? Marco, Kevin. And we go, yep, they're seeing them. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, good call there, Chris.
I'm just seeing a giant picture of you, buddy, so I don't know. Go for it.
Yeah. No, I got a screen shared, but I haven't worked. All right, well, perfect. But yeah, the big thing is if we want to pose as someone who is really sincerely wanting to connect and drive value, great, use an automation tool. But having it immediately send a message the second after someone connects leaves a bad taste every time, right? I think this image does a good job of conveying that. But personalizing messages is key, and really conversational messaging, right? If you connect with someone, there's a lot of potential. You have had that handshake, and now you have the ability to freely communicate. There's no more character limits on messages. Does that mean you should send a book? Definitely not. No matter how great a message is, if it feels like it came too quickly, also not going to work well. It just is generally received very badly. So timing, big thing, but also from the recipient perspective. Does this feel like a message you'd like to receive, right? Is someone assuming a whole bunch and just jumping into something aggressively? Well, is that going to work for them? Not usually, right? So we'll get into some of the best practices there, but realistically, there's a real art to the patience without waiting too long. So timing, follow up, and messaging in a conversational manner, right? It is really key if you're going to be organic and natural to time things. So, if you do it manually, great. But again, just make sure you do not do so immediately. We have stats on timing, and anywhere from 20 minutes at the minimum, by the way, that's the minimum, to 2 or 3 hours is kind of the sweet spot for sending a message after connecting. And again, keeping it conversational, right? And there's a lot of, I guess, details or best practices around follow-up messaging as well. If someone doesn't respond, your second message after the connection, the third, the fourth, what is the ideal timing? And we have, of course, some stats on what timing leads to the highest engagement rates, but it really comes down to also following best practices around messaging, right? And how do you want to be perceived? right? The goal is to target high opportunity value and to drive value. So at a glance, if someone's also repetitive in their messaging, it comes across as insulting. One of the things that people don't think about is if you've messaged someone a few times, when they finally see the message, if they haven't checked it in the first or second touch, what do they see? They see the entire thread. And how that is perceived, how that looks is important to, again, whether or not you have that potential for engagement, right? And now from there, of course,
Hey Mel, real quick, I love
yeah,
that too because we just had the guys on from Try Lavender, and like even with automation, you still have to sound human. Like
yes,
far too often we're thinking about what we want to say, but we're not thinking about how we're being heard, how we're being received, what that looks or feels like in the inbox when how I'm viewing it. Am I viewing it on my mobile device? Like what's the state of mind am I in when it's happening? Like I think a lot of times we just forget how it feels to receive, and we only think about it from our perspective. And I think it's the same, if not tenfold, on LinkedIn world.
100%, Chris. And I mean, if we just connected and you sent me a whole bunch of stuff I didn't ask for, it's not going to feel good, but people do it nonetheless because they don't think about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, if someone tries to do the shotgun effect, it burns opportunities. It just limits people. I mean, the idea of like, I want to appeal to everybody is going to appeal to no one, right? So again, hey, we're both working. That's not a commonality. Again, the thing I'm trying to talk to here is targeting. Like, make sure you have an audience that makes sense for the message. And I think that is the biggest thing that is lost in LinkedIn is the I want to be a jack of all trades thing just hasn't worked for many people. And it shouldn't work because it's a world and a time where we can identify as someone who specializes so easily, and it has a massive improvement on appeal. So it's one of those things where I think the average person approaches it from the wrong angle. It's not who you are, it's who you want to be perceived as, because again, it's about presenting your best foot forward. If you have clients that are your favorite to work with, find those people and reach out to more of those people, specialize. And it doesn't mean you're limited there. You can go through the region and engage with all the people possible, and then another niche can be brought. But the key here is messaging, like you said, Chris, that you'd actually want to see come to you, right? Conversational messaging and targeting. And then, of course, it's just reemphasis here. It's impossible if you're trying to appeal to too broad an audience to have messaging that's going to resonate. Why? Because it's like, hey, I like to do business. Do you want to chat? It's not going to work, right? And some people get too direct, scare people off. But there's the other drawback is if you get too passive with messaging. Hey, let's have a collaboration discussion. If you're trying to do business and sell, they're going to often try and just sell you because you haven't made it clear what you're looking to accomplish. So it's kind of a fine line. There's a bit of an art to understanding the nuance of messaging. But again, you don't have to have a niche figured out. Start with your lowest hanging fruit and work your way from there. Right? Just pick one, identify as working in that niche.
Mo, I love that too because the ones that really hit me are those beautiful templated emails that are like, one they got NASP and the title in there, and they got my name, and then they give me a specific problem that more than likely I'm like, oh yeah, and then how they help somebody else with that problem, and then P.S. We're known for this. This is what we do. And you're like, oh wow, okay, and the personalization is because I feel the problem.
Yeah.
It's not because they know my aunt and uncle's shoe size or something like that, It's not because they researched where I went to elementary school, but the personalization is that I feel the pain and they know about it. They've solved it for somebody else. And now I have a little bit more certainty in their knowledge and expertise over mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is if you do want to go and look for something that might be easier to break ice with, one of the things that works incredibly well on places like LinkedIn is doing alumni targeting.
Alma mater, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great pickups on that one for sure.
I mean, people love to talk about the university days. It's a fun thing to reminisce about. And if you're targeting business owners that used to go to the same university that you attended, that's an in, right? But again, it's just one of many methods to get under that or into that audience of people that are actually received, engaged with.
And you also need to be delicate too. Hey, we both went to West Virginia. Awesome. Hey, let me tell you about this product I got for you. Like, this is still conversation, y'all. Like, take the time, be intentful with your reasoning. And if you get somebody to reply, which is the main goal, feed what made them reply a little bit before you go and develop some rapport with that thing before you go and hammering them with your somebody replied, let me sell them.
I mean, 100%. I've seen a lot of people take any engagement and try and immediately flip it, and you haven't built any rapport. So absolutely, you're bang on there, Chris. It's a combination of getting their attention, step one, but then building some rapport. And the goal is not to sell someone on LinkedIn. The goal is to get onto a phone call, a Zoom call, and again, build that relationship, do some discovery, and solve a problem for them. Sell them in a way that makes sense and doesn't put us into that bucket of bad stereotypes around, lazy and aggressive salespeople. It's a world now where social selling is incredibly powerful if done right, but it does take some work. But the key here is, if you're looking to do a shotgun effect, you're going to get a lot of people who are probably not worth your time. So you want to qualify them out. But the key here is not that. You want to do an outreach for high opportunity value, the right people, the right decision makers, and then it's worth taking the time every time. Right. And that's always been the better approach with a medium like LinkedIn. B2B is incredibly powerful here, but it's really about just the nuance of doing it right. And of course, how do we stand out? We've probably all seen this. There's a million variations. There's a different intent with these things, but things like title can very often be good for you or hurt you if you don't understand how it's being seen and received. The one thing I want to highlight is, when you invite someone to connect, the first thing and only thing they really see is, three things I should say, is, okay, your name, your title company, I guess, and then you have a character limited note you can have attached if you chose to send a note with your invite to connect. And that connection is your handshake. That's step one, right? But a lot of people have taken it upon themselves to create titles that don't really say what they do. And the general consensus was it was novel. People liked it at first, and it's now shifted back to being annoying to people. Now, fine, just say marketer, say salesperson, account executive. That's okay. Is it great? I mean, it doesn't stand apart from the crowd. But the example here, customer whisperer, no one knows what that means, and it's annoying. Right. And then there's the other way. We can get creative, but then also state what you're doing. And that's generally been the most appealing for people on the recipient side from the feedback we've gotten in surveys. And I mean, there's all variations, but be aware of the fact that they're going to see who you know in common. They're going to see your title. You're going to see kind of the note and a truncated, shortened version until they hit show more. Those are all they're going to, an average person there, all they're going to do is look at that. They're not going to click in your profile unless you really compelled them. It's going to be accept, decline. So at a glance, how do you come across? And that's also why targeting and niche targeting is great, because the more you target a niche, those people know each other. The more narrow, the more they're going to have a common network. So you'll get more mutual connections. And the faster you grow the mutual connections, the higher connection rate when you're inviting people to connect. Because they say, hey, Chris knows 25 of the same people as I do. Massive impact on, again, the chance of someone actually deciding to say yes and to start that connection, right?
No, I love that. I want to real quick add is the congruency of it all too, right? Don't call yourself a senior account executive with 3 months of sales experience in your entire history, and you're just out of college, right? Nobody's gonna. It's incongruent. Now you've all of a sudden you shattered your chance, even because once you break that congruency, now we no longer trust you anymore. So don't be, let your title be congruent with who you are, and be creative, have fun a little bit, and do something to stand out, but don't lie. Be true to your intent and be congruent, because what's going to happen is there's going to be another depth in which they search, and Mo's right. Like, I'm going to go look first. How many people are we connected with? After I get over the flashy title that made me actually search more, I'm then going to scroll down on your LinkedIn page and see what else is there very quickly. And so, if you get past that first door, it's not like you're not going to be exposed behind the second one. So be congruent all the way through.
And that's bang on, because once someone connects, that's, if you then get their attention before they reply, that's usually when they'll look at the LinkedIn profile. And if they accepted to connect with you, but then they realize your title was incredibly misleading, and this is common in startups, common misstep of like, hey, I'm the only salesperson, let me call myself the VP. A VP is a manager of managers of managers, and you have the one and only title at the company. Is that misleading? Yes. Right. And so again, something to think about. But jumping into it, I mean, the other thing is it's a noisy, overstimulation world. ADD is prevalent. And again, I'm happy to share the stats here. And again, the studies have been done on this, but we have a blink to get someone's attention, stand out. There's a lot of noise. And sometimes people think standing out means being louder. In this case, what we've seen is often being just better, meaning conversational, nice messaging that you'd like to see, that actually is intelligently tailored to me, the audience, right? But it's really interesting to see how many people try to overshare. And again, if you're looking to start a business relationship, that's just not the way, right? Now, standing out in a good way is really, it sounds like there's a one path to get there kind of solution. No, there isn't. There's a lot of ways to do it. But how can I be better, do better, come across in better ways is what people should ask themselves, right? It is about nuance. Testing also takes time. Different prospect lists and audiences you want to reach out to might receive different aspects of messaging and profiles differently, and data collection takes time. But it really can make the difference. And again, it's hard sometimes to track. Did this improve? Did this work for me? When you make a change, those things are really relevant, and stats can be insightful if they're available, right? So, any tool being used, I always encourage people to make sure there's an analytics component. Now, again, the first key to targeting the right people is just that: getting clear on what you want to do for a niche. Is the niche a geography? That's doable. It's just making sure that you are starting the right conversations. Because again, if you're starting conversations with just anybody, everybody, the likelihood of having a positive impact on your business from that effort is it becomes just rapidly diminishing. Now, the network effect is what I was just referring to, and I mean, if you target a niche, you're going to get more mutual connections fast. If you target broadly, the likelihood of commonality gets lower and lower, and as a byproduct, the connection rate doesn't increase very rapidly. We have seen with best practices followed, connection rates start usually 18 to 20%. If you're reaching out to people you don't have a lot of mutual network with, often climbing to 35, 40%. In edge cases we see with people with great profiles and big networks, that I've seen people hit 50 and 60% connection rate. But I say a sweet spot is 30 plus. And that means for every 100 people you reach out to, 30 are going to say yes and at least connect. Give you that opportunity to then see if you can get their attention. Now, again, the opportunity here is going to, if done right and taken advantage of properly, it's going to lead to a compounding effect, right? And that network has a lot of value down the road, right? So it's really important to focus on a subset of the potential approachable market to start, and not try and do it all at once, right? Because again, it's just impossible to have messaging to resonate with everybody at once. It is really not about what you know, it's about who you know. And the interesting thing is, back in the early days of LinkedIn, obviously LinkedIn's evolved and changed a lot over the years. There's this huge perception about not connecting with anyone you don't actually know in person, right? It's obviously very much changed. They've got many tools they sell as a company, pre and post Microsoft acquisition, around connecting with people and growing your network and reaching out, prospecting even. It's not about having to really truly know them in person. It doesn't hurt, but the data tells us that having high level mutual LinkedIn connections increases the rate of success and engagement, whether or not you know the people, actually know them. So it's great to take that into account and always build your network with the people you meet, but it's fine and actually even very much an encouraged piece nowadays to go beyond, right? Now, scaling outreach. Start with understanding best practices, because spending more time won't necessarily result in more results if it's not spent efficiently and with the best practice in mind. So continuing to hunt for tips and tricks is also key. Chris, you've seen the space for a long time as well. It's evolved dramatically and traumatically in some ways, because I mean, it used to be people would share business related content. Now you got memes and goofy stuff, and it's turned into a social network for people in business, in a good and bad way. But if you want to, stay on top of it, it's a matter of just following the trends. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. The platform's expanding, adding more video functionality, even in message. But it's really a good idea to consider leveraging tools that can help and support.
Yeah, dude, I think you're right in the evolvement. It's become more. It moved away from more of a bulletin board for business people to a networking event for business people. You go to a networking event. Always the cats there. They're there for the drinks. They're there at the bar. They're there to hang out. They're not even listening to the speaker. They're doing it. But then there's the other people who are just strictly there with the suits on from all day at work, and they're talking about business and they're shaking it. Everybody's kind of there for their own pieces and own reasons, and it's very interesting what's evolved. But look, the numbers don't lie. I read in a couple different places. HubSpot said 80% of B2B leads are generated on LinkedIn right now. 80%, and they have a 3-time conversion ratio than any other type of social media as well.
I mean, the big thing, if you think about it, is okay, where do we usually do business outreach? Email, phone calls. Well, you got gatekeepers on both, spam filters, junk filters, and just overwhelm, right? Where can you get directly to decision maker? LinkedIn. And they also get to see, who are you? You're accountable. Where I blast an email, I burn an email domain, I can get a new one tomorrow. Warm it up, start over again. There's that lack of accountability. And the fact that, we're attached to our profile, and that is, I think, one of the big benefits and reasons why it, at least for now, is such a powerful space. The other thing here is, I mean, if you look at, the progression, high level, it's turned from, back in the day, LinkedIn was the rolling resume. Largely, it was, they made their money in recruiters, and it was really just about that. It's kind of keeping it out there so you can be poached or approached for opportunities, or a place to approach people. And it's changed dramatically. They make a huge amount of the revenue from other tools and offerings now. So the other thing I would highlight is, we've all gotten this, but InMail can be powerful, sure, but in general has this huge negative stigma from abuse. Because if I get hit with an email, it means someone didn't want to make the effort to get my approval, to shake hands, and to connect first. And usually, because they want to just blast things out, it's this info dump, links and a bunch of information. Often it's a recruiter hitting me with a role that I would never be even remotely interested in, because they didn't do targeting right. So there's a lot of ways to do things on LinkedIn, but there's also a lot of areas you can spend time on that don't generally prove to be all that fruitful, right? So first off, step one is always figure out who to start with, and then prioritize messaging that will work for that audience. And if you were them, put yourself in their shoes, think about how that messaging would be received. And what do you know? You will get more conversations, because you'll have more compounded mutual network, and you'll have just way more appeal. But the other thing we didn't touch on, and I don't want to go too deep here, but is your profile speaking to the fact that you work in that industry, specialize in that industry? And a lot of people's immediate response is, I don't want to alienate my current clients. They're not going to go to your LinkedIn and say, oh, you don't specialize in me, and not want to work with you anymore. They've been working with you for some time. There's no risk of that. It just doesn't happen. But the idea of, if someone looks at your profile, does it say that you also, just like your message to them said, you also on your profile specialize in helping people like them? That is something that does have a material impact. So it comes down to sometimes the little things, but even if just at a high level, the basic pieces are in place, it makes a huge difference. You want to get reward from the grind, it sometimes just takes a little bit more energy up front, right?
I love it, Mo. I want to say, let's get a couple questions in here too. Are we wrapped? My man.
I wanted to sum up with a couple takeaways, and then we got lots of time for Q&A.
Yeah, close for takeaways here. We usually around 20, 30 minutes, but everybody's still engaged. So let's roll with your takeaways, and we'll see if you got any questions here for everybody.
All I wanted to highlight, recapping. I
Yes.
mean, the market potential, people ask this all the time. Is it better or worse now? I would actually argue it's gotten only better. There's more noise, but because it's now a place where it's accepted to do business, people work more remotely than ever. It went from nice to have to need to have to do business here, right? If you can avoid the feeling of being robotic in your outreach, keep it automation. If you're going to use it, keep it organic. And scalable is going to be really just about, are you doing it right? Because then your time is rewarding and you're going to be reinforcing doing more of that. So yeah, please, questions. Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Anybody got what is Mojan? Every time I see it, it throws me out. What is Mojan? What does Mo think LinkedIn will evolve into?
I mean, the trend right now is they want to be your outreach tool. That's the trend I'm seeing. And what I mean by that is more and more integrations to move data between CRM, more Teams components. So for those of you who are familiar or not, of course, they've always had a premium version, and then they introduced Sales Navigator, which is the non-recruiting kind of outreach prospecting centric tool. They have the Teams version of that as well. So you can start to see, hey, what do we have in common with my colleagues? How can a colleague help me get into this person? So forth. More for the large enterprises. When I worked at SAP back in the day, they're one of the biggest early adopters of LinkedIn across their entire sales force. So I got to see kind of that rolling out. We actually had LinkedIn come in and do in-person training with our teams, and it feels as though they are working towards being an outreach type tool to just basically get stickier and add more value. Nice integrations coming in for, again, like I say, moving data between CRMs. So that's the trend that we're seeing.
More and more marketing, so good, but good for some people, less for people who really just enjoy floating around on the old LinkedIn now. Unless you're buying, unless you're a buyer out there, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, love that, Kevin. Great question, Mo. What do you think about personalized videos to engage on LinkedIn?
Never been better. They're working incredibly well. I would argue if you can, try and get one that's hosted on one of the mediums that actually renders in LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, like any network, wants you to stay on LinkedIn. And so if you click a link and it redirects you, it's less effective. And also if it can render the thumbnail in the message, it's powerful. I've seen everything from AI engagement videos and deep fakes being used all the way to Loom, simple tools like that, but they work well, but especially well when someone doesn't have to click a link, because again, it has that feeling of being risky. So if you can render it and play it inside the messaging, it works really well. And just keep them short. The one thing I've seen is if they're more than a minute, people won't sit through very long. So, I mean, we're actually building an AI video tool right now for that very purpose. We've just seen it working so well.
I love it. Yeah, your goal is like one of the Wills said on one of our previous webinars. Our goal is a reply, not a sole compliance, right? On our first message. So remember that. And when you think about what your outcomes are for these messaging, and you think about the perspective of the person receiving the message, simplicity is key, y'all. It reigns. It's a conversation. It's a back and forth if it's successful. And so the only way to go back and forth is be short with your back, so that you can get some action in there. Mo, listen, this is really great, man. It was awesome. I had a hard stop here, but I got to roll. If y'all have any other questions, let's see here. I think I put. Did I? No, there it is. No, that's not it. I will put Mo's. Y'all can find Mo on LinkedIn. Mojan Butler.
I'm the only one, I guarantee.
Others. Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate the time. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you got some action out of this. And don't forget, y'all, we always talk about it, but, habits are great, but they don't change unless you change, right? There's always great new things to do, but if you keep doing your old way, and a lot of it comes from an internal place. We always know it's the same thing with sales with other people. When you're selling somebody else, if you do it from an internal place, motivated, your motivations come from the inside. You don't feel needy. You don't feel greedy. You don't send out that negative thing, right? You're there to add value, which comes from here, not from external motivation. That's why the CPSP is beautiful, because it helps you turn that motivation from on the inside and allows you to return back to a human again, communicate like a human being again. It's not just because another place that we're going, we can act like savages, y'all. Be salespeople. Salespeople are human. And Mo, listen, y'all, check out CopilotAI.com. Right?
Yep, that's right. If you love to have any questions, hit me with an email. Check out our website. This is our bread and butter. It's what we do, and always love to collaborate as well with the NASP space.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, we'll do some more stuff. This is a real hot topic. I had a lot of questions about this on a daily, so we'll definitely be back, Mo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Take care.
Have a great day, everyone. Cheers.